The auction hall fell silent. Only a human chose the wild alien girl, the silent auction. The air in Nexus Station's lower levels tasted of recycled fear and desperation. Marcus Chen pulled his worn jacket tighter as he descended into the auction house, a place where legality bent like light through a prism. He wasn't supposed to be here. A freelance cargo hauler had no business among the mercenaries, collectors, and worse who frequented these gatherings. But a tip from an old friend had brought him, though he couldn't say exactly why. The main floor opened into a circular amphitheater, tiered seating rising into shadows. At the center, under harsh white lights, stood a containment field crackling with electric blue energy. Inside, barely visible through the shimmer, sat a figure. Marcus found a seat near the back as the auctioneer, a Vraxian with too many teeth in his smile, tapped his staff against the platform. "Ladies, gentlemen, and variations thereof," he began, his voice amplified through hidden speakers. "Today we offer something exceptional, recovered from a derelict research vessel in disputed space." The containment field flickered, becoming transparent. The crowd gasped collectively. She couldn't have been more than 20 standard years if age even applied. Her skin was pale silver, like moonlight on water, with darker patterns that might have been natural or might have been scars tracing along her arms. Her hair, white as stellar frost, hung past her shoulders, but it was her eyes that made the crowd shift uneasily. Completely black, reflecting the harsh lights like obsidian mirrors. "Species unknown," the auctioneer continued. "Genetic markers suggest engineered origin. Previous owners report extraordinary physical capabilities, enhanced healing, possible psychokinetic abilities." He paused for effect. "Also reported extreme aggression, inability to communicate, and 3 handler casualties." The girl hadn't moved since the field turned transparent. She sat with her knees drawn up, arms wrapped around them, those black eyes staring at nothing. Marcus noticed the inhibitor collar around her neck, its red lights blinking steadily. He'd seen similar devices on dangerous wildlife. This one looked military grade. "Shall we start the bidding at 50,000 credits?" Silence. 40,000? A merchant in the front row laughed nervously. "You trying to sell us a weapon that might kill us in our sleep?" "She's contained, perfectly safe with proper precautions." "Show us these extraordinary capabilities," someone shouted. "If you want us to bid on a monster, prove she's worth the risk." The auctioneer hesitated, then nodded to a control booth. The containment field shifted, a section opening just enough for a mechanical arm to extend inside, dangling a piece of raw meat. The change was instantaneous. The girl's head snapped up, her body flowing from stillness to motion like water suddenly freed from ice. She moved across the containment area in a blur, snatching the meat before the mechanical arm could retract. But instead of eating it, she held it for a moment, then set it down carefully, returning to her original position. See? Remarkable speed, but controlled. Trainable, perhaps. A security guard, emboldened or stupid, stepped too close to the containment field. "Hey, freak, do a trick for the nice people." The girl's eyes focused on him. Slowly, deliberately, she stood. The guard stepped back, but not fast enough. Her hand shot out, passing through what should have been solid energy barrier like it wasn't there, fingers closing around his throat. She didn't squeeze, didn't pull him closer, just held him there, while the room erupted in shouts and drawn weapons. Then, just as suddenly, she released him. The guard stumbled backward, gasping as she sat back down, never breaking eye contact until he fled. The auction hall fell into stunned silence. "The bidding," the auctioneer said weakly, "starts at 10,000? Nothing." Merchants were already heading for the exits. Mercenaries who'd faced death on a dozen worlds wanted no part of this. Marcus stood up. 5,000. Every head turned to stare at him. A human, unremarkable in worn spacer's clothes, had just bid on something that terrified. Hardened killers. "Sir," the auctioneer said carefully, "you understand what you're bidding on?" "I do." Marcus descended the steps slowly, hands visible and empty. 5,000 credits. "Sold," the auctioneer said quickly, clearly wanting this over with. "Collect your Purchase. At the side entrance. Good luck. As the crowd dispersed, muttering about foolish humans and their death wishes, Marcus approached the containment field. The girl watched him, those black eyes unreadable. "My name is Marcus," he said quietly. "In about 10 minutes, they're going to transfer you to my custody. You can kill me then if you want. Or you can come with me and see what happens next. Your choice." She tilted her head slightly, the first sign of curiosity she'd shown. The transfer zone was a reinforced chamber adjacent to the main hall. 2 guards in full armor flanked the doorway while a technician prepared the control transfer for the inhibitor collar. The girl stood in the center, restraint cables attached to her wrists and ankles, though Marcus suspected they were more for show than actual security. "You sure about this?" the technician asked, holding out the collar's control unit. "Once I transfer authorization, she's your problem. No refunds, no takebacks." "I'm sure." Marcus accepted the device, then immediately set it on the ground and crushed it under his boot. The guards raised their weapons. The technician backed away. "What are you doing? Without that, the collar's useless." "Good." Marcus looked at the girl. "I don't believe in leashes." Her eyes widened slightly. The inhibitor collar sparked once, then went dark as its control signal died. She reached up, pulling it off with a sharp twist that should have required tools. It clattered to the floor. "You're insane," one guard said, finger on his trigger. "Maybe." Marcus turned his back on her, walking toward the exit. "You coming?" For 5 heartbeats, nothing happened. Then he heard footsteps behind him, soft, almost silent, but there. They walked through Nexus Station's corridors, an odd pair that drew stares and quick movements to the opposite side of walkways. Marcus led the way to the docking ring, aware of her presence 3 steps behind. Him, close enough to strike, far enough to run. His ship, the Persistence, was nothing special. A modified cargo hauler with a crew capacity of 6 but currently running solo. He'd bought her years ago with his military severance, patched her up, and made a living hauling freight to places bigger companies wouldn't go. "This is home," Hio said, gesturing at the main cargo bay. "Kitchen's through there, sleeping quarters down that hall. Shower works most of the time. You can pick any cabin except the first one. That's mine." She stood just inside the airlock, tension in every line of her body, ready to fight or flee. Marcus moved to the kitchen area, pulling out 2 ration packs. "Hungry? It's not great, but it's food." He heated them, set both on the table, then sat down and started eating, not looking at her. After a minute, she moved closer. Another minute, and she sat across from him, still watching warily. When he continued eating without acknowledging her presence, she finally reached for the second pack. She ate mechanically at first, then with increasing focus, like someone remembering what food was supposed to be. When she finished, Marcus got up and heated 2 more packs. This time she ate slower. "There's no locked doors on this ship," he said conversationally. "Except the airlocks when we're in space, obviously. You can go anywhere, touch anything. If you break something, we'll fix it together. If you want to leave at the next station, I'll give you enough credits to book passage somewhere else." She watched him, head tilted again. "I don't know what they did to you, who made you, or why. Don't much care either. Everyone deserves a chance to be more than what others decided they should be." He stood, stretching. "I'm going to run diagnostics on the nav system. Make yourself comfortable." He left her there, sitting at the table with empty ration packs between them. When he glanced back from the cockpit an hour later, she was gone. He found her eventually in one of the empty cabins, curled in the corner rather than on the bunk, back to the wall where she could see the door. "Good night," he said softly, and left her to whatever peace she could find. That first night, he woke twice to find her standing in his doorway, watching. Both times, he simply said, "Can't sleep?" "Me neither sometimes," and rolled over. By morning, she was back in her corner. The pattern continued for 3 days as they traveled toward the jump point. She shadowed him through the ship, always watching, never speaking. He maintained a running commentary about ship operations, not expecting responses but offering information freely. On the 4th day, pirates attacked. between predator and partner. The proximity alarm screamed while Marcus was halfway through replacing a burned-out coupling in the engine room. 3 ships, closing fast in an attack formation that suggested experience. He scrambled for the cockpit, aware of the girl following like a silent shadow. "This is the Persistence," he broadcast, hands flying over controls. "We're carrying no valuable cargo, not worth your trouble." "Nice try, Chen." The voice that answered was familiar. Too familiar. Garrett Voss, a mercenary who'd gone pirate after the colonial wars. "Heard about your purchase on Nexus. Alien hybrid, very valuable to certain parties. Hand her over and we let you keep your ship." Marcus glanced at the girl. She stood perfectly still, but something in her posture had changed. A predator recognizing danger. "No deal, Voss. Your funeral." The first missile struck their shield, sending the ship spinning. Marcus fought the controls while checking damage reports. The shields wouldn't last long against 3 attackers. "Can you fight?" he asked her. She tilted her head, then moved. To the weapons console he'd never seen her touch before. Her fingers danced across the controls with surprising familiarity. The Persistence's limited defensive turrets came online, tracking with inhuman precision. The next missile never reached them. She shot it down, then immediately targeted the attacking ship's engines with surgical accuracy. One pirate vessel vented atmosphere and fell back. "Impressive," Marcus muttered, rolling the ship to avoid another barrage. "But there's still—" Warning lights flooded the cockpit. They'd been boarded. A breaching pod had attached to their cargo bay while they focused on the space battle. "Stay here, keep firing." Marcus grabbed an old service pistol from under his seat. "I'll handle—" She was already gone, moving toward the cargo bay with that liquid grace he'd observed before. Marcus cursed and followed. He found chaos. 3 pirates in combat armor were down, unconscious or dead. He couldn't tell. 2 more were backing toward their breaching pod, firing wildly at shadows. The girl materialized behind one, her hand closing on his helmet. The armor crumpled like paper under her grip, and the pirate dropped. The last invader turned his weapon on Marcus. Too fast to dodge. The girl moved faster. She took the plasma bolt meant for him, the energy dispersing across her silver skin like water. Before the pirate could fire again, she crossed the distance between them and put her fist through his chest plate. Silence fell except for the hiss of escaping air from the breached hull. The girl stood among the bodies, that strange skin of hers shimming where the plasma had struck. No visible damage. "You saved my life," Marcus said quietly. She looked at him, those black eyes unreadable. Then she collapsed. Marcus caught her before she hit the deck, her weight surprisingly light. Up close, he could see the cost of blocking that plasma bolt. Her skin was cracked along her left side like broken glass, leaking something that wasn't quite blood. He carried her to the small medical bay, setting her on the examination table. The automated systems couldn't identify her biology, but basic first aid still applied. He cleaned the wounds, applied synthetic skin patches, and hoped her enhanced healing would handle the rest. She woke hours later to find him still there, slumped in a chair beside the table. Her movement woke him instantly. Old military habits. "How do you feel?" She sat up slowly, examining the patches on her side. Then she looked at him and for the first time spoke. "Why?" Her voice was rough from disuse but unmistakably curious. "Why what? Why did I stay? You were hurt. Why did I help you? You saved my life first." Marcus leaned back. "Or why did I buy you at that auction?" She nodded at the last one. "Honestly, I don't know. Something about the way you didn't eat that meat they threw at you. You could have torn into it like an animal, proved their worst fears. Instead, you set it aside. That took thought, choice. Made me think maybe everyone had you." "Wrong." She was quiet for a long moment. "They made me to kill." "I know. I'm good at it. I noticed. Doesn't that frighten you?" Marcus shrugged. "I've known plenty of humans who were made to kill. Soldiers like I used to be. What matters isn't what you were made for, but what you choose to do." She pulled her knees up, a defensive gesture he'd seen often. I don't know how to choose anything else. Then learn. No rush. They sat in comfortable silence until the ship's proximity alarm chimed softly. They'd reached Tenira Colony, a frontier settlement where Marcus had a cargo pickup scheduled. Need a name? She said suddenly. The researchers called me Subject 7. The slavers called me Thing. Neither fits. What would you like to be called? She thought about it as they prepared to dock. Finally, as the colony came into view through the viewport, she said, Luna, like your Earth's moon. Distant, cold, but still orbiting something, warm. Luna it is. Tenira Colony was struggling, that much was obvious from orbit. Half the agricultural domes showed damage from recent storms, and the main settlement looked more like a refugee camp than a thriving frontier town. Change of plans, the dockmaster informed Marcus when they landed. The agricultural shipment you were supposed to pick up got destroyed in yesterday's storm. But if you're willing, we've got medical supplies that desperately need to reach Salvation Point. Same pay, higher risk. Raiders have been hitting that route. Marcus glanced at Luna. She'd found clothes that actually fit from the ship's stores and looked almost normal if you didn't look too close at those distinctive eyes. We'll take it, he said. Loading the medical supplies took most of the day. Luna helped, her strength making quick work of containers that should have required a power loader. The colonists gave her wary looks but said nothing. Frontier folk knew better than to ask too many questions. That evening, Marcus found her on the ship's small observation deck, watching Tenira's twin suns set. Second thoughts? He asked. No. Just processing. 3 weeks ago I was property. Now I'm hauling medicine to sick colonists. It doesn't feel real. Freedom rarely does at first. Is that what this is, freedom? You tell me. You could leave right now, take those credits I mentioned, disappear into the frontier. But you're here. She turned to look at him. I'm here because I choose to be. Then yes, that's freedom. The attack came 2 days into their journey to Salvation Point, but not from raiders. The ships that dropped out of hyperspace were sleek, corporate, bearing the logo of Prometheus Biotech. Marcus Chen. The broadcast was crisp, professional. You're in possession of stolen property. Return Subject 7 immediately and no charges will be filed. Luna went rigid beside him. She's not property, Marcus responded. She's crew. She's a 1 billion credit biological asset with proprietary genetic modifications. You have no claim to her. I paid for her freedom fair and square. You paid criminals who had no right to sell her. This is your final warning. Marcus cut the transmission. Luna, I need you to... But she was already at the weapons console, her fingers flying across the controls. They have inhibitor nets, neural disruptors, everything they used to control me. If they take me back, they won't. The first corporate ship fired, but not at them. The shot released a spread of microscopic tracking nanites, designed to mark their target for later retrieval. Luna responded by venting plasma from their engines, creating a cloud that fried the nanites before they could attach. Creative, Marcus said, impressed. Where did you? I watched them test countermeasures. For 8 years, I know all their tricks. The corporate ships moved to surround them, herding them toward a larger vessel emerging from hyperspace. A mobile laboratory. That's the Prometheus, Luna whispered. Where they made me. Where they made all of us. All? There were 12 subjects. I'm the only one who survived the combat trials. Her voice was flat, matter of fact, which somehow made it worse. Marcus engaged the emergency beacon, broadcasting a general distress call. It was a long shot. They were far from any patrol routes. The Prometheus launched boarding pods. Luna stood, moving toward the airlock. Where are you going? To face them. If I surrender, they'll leave you alone. Marcus grabbed her arm, the first time he deliberately touched her. We don't abandon crew. You don't understand. They have a kill switch, a phrase that will shut down my higher brain functions. If they get close enough to use it, then we don't let them get close. He pulled her back to the cockpit, then did something insane. He flew directly at the Prometheus. Marcus, trust me. What makes us human? The Prometheus loomed before them, its bulk blotting out the stars. Marcus pushed the Persistence's engines beyond their limits, the hull groaning under the strain. At the last possible second, he triggered the cargo release. Tons of medical supplies erupted from their hold, creating a cloud of containers and packaging that confused the larger ship's targeting systems. They scraped past the Prometheus's hull, close enough to see faces in the windows. Marcus caught a glimpse of cold laboratories and holding cells before they were passed, racing toward open space. "They're following," Luna reported, monitoring sensors. "All of them." "Good. Better they chase us than destroy those medical supplies. Salvation Point still needs them." Luna turned to stare at him. "You're risking your life for medicine you won't even deliver?" "Someone will salvage them. The colony will survive." He managed a tight smile. "Besides, I'm not planning on dying today." They ran for 3 days, jumping between systems seemingly at random. But Marcus had a destination in mind: Haven, an independent colony that had broken away from corporate control decades ago. They had their own laws, their own courts, and a deep distrust of companies like Prometheus. "Why there?" Luna asked when she figured out their heading. "Because they believe in second chances. And because I have friends there who owe me favors." Haven looked like nothing special from orbit. A modest colony of maybe 50,000 souls, scratching out a living on a marginally habitable world. But Marcus knew better. Haven was where soldiers went to forget wars, where criminals went to become farmers, where broken people went to heal. They landed at a small port outside the main settlement, and Marcus was met by a woman with gray-streaked hair and knowing eyes. "Marcus Chen," she said, embracing him. "When I got your message, I could hardly believe it. How many years has it been?" "Too many, Sarah." He gestured to Luna. "This is Luna. Luna, meet Sarah Kim, Haven's chief arbiter and the best lawyer in 3 systems." Sarah studied Luna with professional interest. "So you're the one Prometheus is screaming about. They've filed extradition requests with every major government. Will Haven honor them?" Luna asked directly. "That depends. Are you a person or property?" Sarah's smile was sharp. "Because Haven doesn't return people against their will." The legal proceedings took 2 weeks. Prometheus sent their best lawyers, backed by enough credits to buy a small moon. They presented genetic patents, ownership documents, development costs. They argued Luna was no more a person than a sophisticated android or a gene-modified pet. Luna testified on her own behalf, something that clearly surprised the corporate lawyers. She spoke about her memories, her choices, her dreams. She described the 12 subjects who hadn't survived, gave them names the corporation had never bothered with. Marcus testified too, describing their time together, her choices, her growth. "She chose to save my life. She chose her own name. She chose to stay when she could have run. How is that not personhood?" The colony turned out to watch the proceedings. Haven's people, themselves refugees from corporate control, saw something familiar in Luna's story. On the final day, Prometheus played their last card. A man in an expensive suit stood holding a small device. "If Subject 7 is truly independent," he said, "then she won't respond to her conditioning. May I demonstrate?" Before anyone could object, he spoke a phrase in a language Marcus didn't recognize. Luna went rigid, her black eyes widening. Her hands clenched into fists as she fought against whatever the words were doing to her. "Stop," Marcus shouted, but the man continued. Luna's body began to move against her will, standing, walking toward the corporate representatives. Her face showed the strain of fighting the conditioning, but her body wouldn't obey. Then something extraordinary happened. The colonists stood up. First one, then a dozen, then hundreds. They placed themselves between Luna and the corporate lawyers, a human wall. "You want her," an old farmer said. "You go through us." The corporate lawyer looked uncertain. "This is a legal proceeding." "This is Haven," Sarah Kim said coldly. "And we've seen enough." The verdict was unanimous. Luna was declared a sentient being with full rights under Haven law. Any attempt to remove her against her will would be considered kidnapping. Prometheus threatened economic sanctions, legal challenges, even military intervention. Haven's response was broadcast on every channel. Come and try. The corporate ships left that night, unwilling to risk the political disaster of attacking a colony over one escaped test subject. Luna found Marcus on the Persistence's loading ramp watching Haven's 3 moons rise. You could stay here, he said. Build a life. Be safe. I could. She sat beside him, closer than she'd ever voluntarily been. But that's not what I choose. What do you choose? To haul cargo with a crazy human who crushes control collars and flies at battleships. She paused. If you'll have me as crew. Partners, Marcus corrected. 50-50 split on all jobs. Partners. She tested the word, liked it. Where to next? Salvation Point still needs those medical supplies. I know where we can get more, and the route should be clear now. Luna smiled, the first real smile he'd seen from her. Then let's fly. 5 years later, the Persistence landed at New Proxima Station, now carrying a crew of 6. Luna stood at Marcus's side as they supervised the unloading of their latest cargo, refugee families from a war-torn system, transported free of charge. A young girl, maybe 7 years old, tugged on Luna's sleeve. She had scales instead of skin and eyes that glowed soft green. Miss Luna, my mom says you're like me. Different. Luna knelt to the girl's level. That's right. Were people mean to you because you're different? Some were. Did it get better? Luna looked up at Marcus, then back at the girl. I found people who saw me, not just what I was made to be. That made all the difference. The girl smiled and ran back to her mother. Luna stood watching the refugees disembark toward their new lives. Any regrets? Marcus asked. Just one. What's that? I should have broken that auctioneer's nose when I had the chance. Marcus laughed. There's always next time. With us? Always. They walked back into their ship, their home, ready for whatever the universe would throw at them next. Because that's what humans did. They chose their own paths, lifted each other up, and faced the darkness together. And sometimes, they taught others to do the same. In the vast cosmos where corporations treated life as commodity and power meant everything, a single human's choice to see personhood where others saw property had changed everything. Not through violence or war, but through the simple revolutionary act of recognition, one person seeing another person and saying, you matter. That's what made them human, that's what made them free.